The people who never get tattoos are not less interesting. They are wired different. Psychology found something unexpected. When researchers compared tattooed and non-tattooed adults, the difference was not fear, it was not insecurity, and it was not tradition. It was how identity lives inside the mind. People who never get tattoos tend to rely less on symbols, less on visual proof, less on permanent marks to explain who they are. Their sense of self stays quieter, more contained, more internally regulated. They don't feel a push to leave a mark on the body, because psychologically, the mark already exists inside. And that difference shows up early, in how they seek excitement, in how they handle permanence, and in how much they need to stand out at all. And once you see it, you'll never look at unmarked skin the same way again. The first trait is subtle, but it changes everything. Psychologists measure something called the need for uniqueness. It's the drive to feel distinct from others, to signal difference, to separate the self from the crowd. In the study, people without tattoos scored noticeably lower on this trait. That does not mean they want to disappear. It means they don't rely on appearance to confirm identity. Their mind doesn't ask, "How do I show who I am?" It asks, "Do I already know who I am?" These individuals don't chase distinction through the body, because their identity feels stable without decoration. No urge to explain themselves through ink. No pressure to lock meaning into skin. Psychologically, this points to identity closure, a sense that the self is already formed enough, and when that need is low, the body stays neutral. But that's only one layer, because the same pattern appears again in how they experience stimulation. Here's where it gets interesting. Tattoos combine three things the brain reacts strongly to: pain, novelty, permanence. People who never get tattoos tend to score lower in sensation-seeking. They don't crave intense experiences to feel engaged. They don't need sharp emotional spikes. They don't chase adrenaline for meaning. This is not fear, it's regulation. Their nervous system prefers balance over intensity, predictability over surprise, depth over stimulation. To them, permanence is heavy, not exciting. A tattoo isn't expression, it's a locked decision. And psychologically, these minds resist irreversible choices unless absolutely necessary. They think forward. They imagine future versions of themselves. They hesitate before turning a moment into a lifetime mark. So when they skip tattoos, it's not avoidance, it's control. And once you understand that, the stereotype completely falls apart. This is where the mindset fully shows. A tattoo is not just art. It's a permanent decision made in a temporary moment. People who never get tattoos tend to think far ahead, not emotionally, mentally. They imagine future versions of themselves, different jobs, different beliefs, different lives, and that future awareness creates friction. Psychologically, these individuals show stronger commitment caution. They hesitate before locking identity into something irreversible. This doesn't mean indecision. It means delayed finality. Their brain asks one question over and over: will this still fit me later? If the answer isn't clear, they don't move. Control matters to them, not over others, over themselves. So avoiding tattoos becomes a form of self-management, a way to keep options open, a way to stay flexible. And this control isn't anxious, it's intentional. But here's where people get it wrong. They assume this means low confidence. Psychology says otherwise. This part surprises most people. When researchers compared confidence levels, there was no major difference. People without tattoos did not show lower self-esteem. They weren't unsure. They weren't insecure. They weren't hiding. Their confidence just works differently. Instead of expressing identity outwardly, they validate it inwardly. They don't need reactions. They don't need confirmation. They don't need the body to speak for them. Their self-worth stays private, quiet, unadvertised. Psychologically, this reflects internal validation. Approval comes from consistency, from responsibility, from alignment with personal standards. So while others may express identity through symbols, these individuals reinforce it through behavior. No announcement required. And this pattern connects directly to another trait people rarely notice: their belief systems. Meaning doesn't always need marks. In the study, non-tattooed individuals showed slightly stronger ties to structured belief systems, not extreme, not rigid, but organized. Beliefs give them identity without visual symbols. Values replace decoration. Principles replace ink. Psychologically, this creates internal order. When meaning already exists inside a framework, there's less pressure to carve it onto the body. The body stays functional, neutral, unmarked. This doesn't mean tradition controls them. It means structure stabilizes them. They don't need to display meaning. They already live inside it. And when identity feels supported internally, expression becomes optional, which leads to the most important insight of all. Their silence is not absence. It's choice. This is the core difference. Some people build identity outward. Others build it inward. People who never get tattoos usually fall into the second group. Their identity doesn't need to be seen to feel real. It doesn't need witnesses. It doesn't need permanence on skin. Psychologically, this reflects internal identity consolidation. They know who they are through routine, responsibility, roles, long-term patterns. Their self-image grows through repetition, not declaration. They don't feel erased without symbols. They don't feel invisible without markings. To them, the self is something lived, not something displayed. And because of that, trends don't pull them easily. What's popular feels irrelevant. What lasts matters more. But there's one more layer people almost never talk about. Here's the part that changes everything. Tattoos are not just personal. They are social signals. They communicate identity, belonging, difference, story. People who never get tattoos tend to resist social signaling pressure, not aggressively, quietly. They don't feel a need to announce values. They don't feel pushed to visually explain themselves. Psychologically, this shows low performative identity drive. Their mind doesn't ask, how will this look to others? It asks, do I agree with this for myself? That internal filter blocks many external pressures, including the pressure to mark the body. So when they say no to tattoos, they're not rejecting art, they're rejecting noise. And once you see that, the pattern becomes clear. Not getting a tattoo is not empty space. It's a different identity strategy. Psychology shows two systems at work. One externalizes meaning, the other contains it. Tattooed individuals often express identity outwardly. Non-tattooed individuals stabilize identity inwardly. Neither is better. Neither is weaker. They simply regulate the self in opposite ways. So the next time you see someone with no ink, don't assume fear. Don't assume tradition. Don't assume boredom. You might be looking at someone who doesn't need proof. And if this kind of psychological contrast caught your attention, there's a lot more waiting for you. Explore the other stories here on Archetype Paradox. You'll start seeing people in a completely different way.